from Adobe Systems. I'm the Director of Social Media, and it's great to be here today. A little bit about me before I kick off my presentation. I've been at Adobe 12 and a half years. The first 9 years, I led our global communications program. And then about 3 years ago, my CMO asked if I would be willing to lead our corporate-wide social media strategy. Once I initially got over the terror, I said, absolutely, this is a great challenge. I quickly called up Jeremiah, who's been on stage a few times from Altimeter Group, and I asked him to come in and just advise us on what are the best practices out in social media already today so that I don't make mistakes, I can leapfrog, I can devote my few resources to really building a robust program. So it's been 3 years. I'm very grateful for the advice and the support that Jeremiah and his team has offered us. You're going to see his slides here and there throughout my presentation, and that's why. How many of you are familiar with Adobe and our products? Excellent. You probably know us as the Photoshop company or Adobe Reader or the Updates or Flash. What you may not know is that we acquired Omniture, a leader in web analytics, about 3 years ago, and then more recently, Context Optional, also a leader in social marketing capabilities. And so these solutions are offering us very deep insight into social effectiveness. You'll see that reflected in my presentation. I'm not here to talk about tools and solutions. I'm here to talk with you as a brand, sharing with you our journey through social media as we make mistakes, as we're learning. And I hope that you find some of this useful. Here's what I'll cover with you today. Basically, how do we get organized as a team? How do we corral our 10,000 employees to be aligned and yet be flexible enough to allow authenticity? In terms of measurement, I'll share with you our framework to allow consistency in measurement, but really to also allow deep insight to inform decisions and business strategy. I'll try to bring it to life with a case study, a very recent launch we just did in April. And with that, then I'll just close. And if we have time for questions, I'd be happy to take them, otherwise offline. So in terms of how we got organized, this is a slide from Altimeter Group's way of describing the 5 ways that companies get organized. And I like this slide because it also describes Adobe's evolution. So Adobe's been involved in social media back in 1999 and 2000 when web blogging still was called web blogging. And we have very passionate employees, celebrities who are evangelists, who have many, many followers and many visitors to their web blogs. But we weren't coordinated in any fashion. And what we discovered when we did an audit 3 years ago was that we were missing opportunities. We were duplicating efforts, and we were really incurring risk to the brand. There were no protocols. There were no ways to escalate crises as they happened. And we were just not making the most of social media. So we knew that as a company, we had to get serious about social media. So in late 2009, 2010, we adopted the hub and spoke model. And now we're scaling into the multiple hub and spoke model as we scale globally. Just a brief mention about the hub and spoke model, because you're probably familiar with this. It is basically a set of shared resources at the center of the company. We also call it a center of excellence that enables all the spokes, all the teams around the company to better engage in social media. Our charter as a center of excellence or as a hub is really this. It's 4 key areas that we focus on. Listening, that's really about building a measurement framework that's consistent but also allows flexibility for the various teams and their specific needs. It's a lot about enablement, and a lot of my deck covers that. It's around providing the governance and the policies and the training so that each employee has the skill set to really better engage in social media. Empowerment is really around building robust programs. Individuals can tweet from Adobe, no problem, but how does a team corral together and build a very sophisticated and strategic program? That's what my team helps them do. And then finally, innovation. It's really staying on top of industry best practices, bringing those back into Adobe, and experimenting. We are now scaling this model across all of our regions. We did a very quick tour through Europe, as well as the emerging Eastern European markets. Back in December, we did 1 country every day for 5 days. And we sat down with all of our teams internationally and provided training, but also aligned on strategy and did strategy workshops and really understood their landscape, their pain points. We did the same for Japan and APAC just 3 weeks ago. So now Adobe globally is very much aligned around this model. We have very consistent approaches and one voice. It's not perfect. I'm not painting this as a perfect picture, but we're making steady progress. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about those steps in terms of empowering employees, because our employees are really the base of it all. They are our greatest brand advocates, and if we can effectively galvanize and mobilize our employees, we will be successful as a brand in social media. So what we started with was our policies, and our policies aren't really policies. They're not even really guidelines. They're more guardrails, which is why I share that picture with you. It's the parameters of acceptable behavior, and it really is very fundamental. It's very, very basic. It's very similar to our culture at Adobe. We trust our employees to do the right thing and act responsibly, and that's what we ask of them. And I can say that in the very few instances where we've had employees cross the line, it's pretty remarkable that with 10,000 employees actively engaged in social media, we've had very few instances of bad behavior. Of course, we provide training to make sure that all the employees feel like they have the latest understanding of the tools and technologies that are constantly evolving, emerging, getting acquired, but also the best skill set in terms of authentic engagement. We also encourage every team and every individual to think about the worst case scenario. As they're building their program, we say, what is the worst thing that can happen on a Friday night? Do you know who to call? Do you know what to do? Do you know what not to do? And this is really thanks to Jeremiah and team. When they advised us, they said, make sure you have a crisis framework in place. Well, sadly, we didn't have one in place, and we had a crisis erupt 2.5, 3 years ago, and we had to put this together. So please don't make the same mistake if you're engaging in social media as a company. Get your teams to think about worst case scenario. Who do they need to call in the event of a crisis on a weekend, and how do you galvanize those teams? It really is about preparing in advance of a crisis, knowing who to call. During the crisis, it's already too late if you try to do that. And then we advise our employees around measurement. Again, our measurement approach is very largely based on Altimeter's ROI pyramid. For us, it really means who are the specific audiences, what are the data sets that they need to inform their decisions so they can do a better job involving social media. So for our social practitioners, and there's 60 leads across our company and more than 2,000 employees actively engaging on behalf of Adobe, we try to inform them what are their engagement scores. You know, how well shared is their content? Is this content that their communities care about? They want to understand their growth of community, engagement scores, etc. Whereas the business stakeholders, they're the ones providing budget for social media. They're still a little skeptical. Is this thing really going to provide some return on investment? What am I getting for my money? So we try to give them more analytics, more around conversion, tied also with the sentiment and engagement scores as well. And then our C-level execs, they care about sort of the Uber metrics, the Uber impact that social media is having on Adobe in terms of reputation, customer satisfaction, and revenue. So our measurement framework is really about providing the right data, the right metrics, the right information to the respective audiences. And we tell each team, start with your business objectives, then align your social media programs and objectives with those, and then define your KPIs. So if it's awareness that you're trying to do, because you're in communications, you're in public relations, you know, the KPIs you want to be thinking about are sentiment, you know, perhaps an engagement and volume conversations. If it's lead gen that you care about because you're in marketing or you're in e-commerce, these are the metrics to use. Customer support, it's around customer satisfaction, but also resolution rates. Are we saving money from our call centers because we're supporting so many of our customers more quickly, more effectively through Twitter? And then at one largely untapped area that I feel we're making some great strides in is product innovation. There's so much data that our communities are giving us for free every day. So how do we mine all of that data, all of that information to pull those nuggets to inform our product development to build better products and solutions? Here's a cheat sheet because I know this will get shared. This is for you if you find it helpful. Again, the business objectives on the left, and what we tell all of our employees is choose one of these 5 KPIs. There are at times only 2 or 3 choices. What that allows them is some flexibility, but it allows me consistency. So at any given point in time, I can roll up this data and present it to my C-level execs, and I can represent the company holistically. But empowerment and helping our employees is also around content and content strategy, and I feel this is where we really need more work as well. we have to move from content aggregation to true storytelling and really reflecting the voice of our customer. I don't think we've got it all figured out. I think we're making some good strides. One place we started is coordinating content calendars, very simply. Sounds simple, but doing that across 60 leads across all the regions is very painful. So we do now have a process in place where we align on content and we share content so that we can amplify each other's efforts. And then it's really about building robust strategies. So these are the 4 steps that we take with each team. We sit down with them and understand first, how are you organized? What are your gaps? Are you missing search? Search should be on your task force to really optimize your content, et cetera. And we work with them on building their plans, making sure they're robust, that they've thought of things in terms of what's your voice on your channels, what's authentic for you and the brands that you represent, or the products you represent. About engagement and influencers. That's a very big area for us as we're building it out. And then measurement, as I just shared with you. So that's really it. And it sounds like not much that I could cover 3 years of work in 12 slides. But a lot of hard work and sweat has gone into that. And now I feel like we have a really good handle on how we engage with our customers in social media. To bring this somewhat to life, I'll share with you a case study of a launch that we just executed back at the end of April. And again, if those of you are familiar with Photoshop, you may know of our Creative Suite brand of products. It is really our flagship set of products. It's what usually Adobe is known for. But this April, when we launched Creative Suite 6, it was a milestone for the company because it was the first time that we were also offering these products in the cloud in terms of a service where you would get continual updates. For people who don't like cloud offerings, for some of the hardcore creatives and the ad agencies, we were concerned that they would feel that they couldn't own the product. So we made, of course, both options available. But that's why, in terms of objectives, we were really concerned about sentiment, as well as other things like conversation and revenue. We were very concerned about perception. How was this going to be received? So what we did is we corralled a team of 40 leads around the company, including the regions. We coordinated on content. We provided trainings to make sure everyone knew the protocols in case of a crisis. And we really built out a robust program. And our objectives were along the lines of, how can we generate buzz and excitement through social media? How can we extend the reach of our launch event and all of our activities through our communities? And how can we drive traffic and pre-orders as well? So we amplified our news and we engaged our communities. We did real-time reporting in San Francisco, and we did a fun scavenger hunt where we placed 6 huge balloons in different locations and asked people to find them. They could win $10,000. But we also extended this online, globally. Find content on our different blogs, and whoever found those could win various prizes. It was just a way to amplify the news and engage our community, and it generated a lot of positive coverage and conversation. But here are some of the metrics that we tracked. So we looked at the volume of conversations and YouTube views. We had 600,000 conversations in 2 weeks. That's 4 times our daily average. And as I mentioned, sentiment was so important to our executives, so we really drilled down. Okay, 97% positive neutral, but what was driving those key conversations? And we know it was the key features. We know that they actually liked the subscription model, that there were freelancers who said, this is perfect for our needs. We really appreciate this. Smaller companies who felt that the lower price point was right in line with what they needed. And then, as well, for the C-level execs, we also shared with them the traffic that we drove to our website. 6 million visitors came through social. And in terms of revenue, I can stand here today and actually say I know how much ROI that our efforts drove in terms of social media. And I think that's really powerful because a lot of our executives are questioning, why are we investing in this? The Facebook IPO has cast a questionable haze on the value of social media. And so to be able to stand before our executives and say, I know that in 2 weeks, we more than paid for our investment in social media for the launch. We doubled that. And in 10 weeks, well, 6 weeks, it was 10 times the ROI, and it just keeps going up. So it's very, very powerful information if you know how to use the data and share it appropriately. And so with that, I'll just wrap it up and say that what we've learned is organization is key. You cannot be successful externally if you're not aligned and coordinated internally, as painful as it is. We try to mitigate risk with training as well as the crisis framework preparedness. And we really try our best to be diligent in measurement. It's not perfect, but we're trying to do as much as we can to really know the impact on the business. And just to say that we're not done with our journey, the things that we're focused on next is really making social a part of everything we do. We've made great progress, but there's still more work to be done. And as I mentioned earlier, to move from content aggregation to true storytelling. I think that's probably a big theme in many of the conferences today. And then to continue to scale our efforts as a brand. So I thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. I think I am out of time. Or I am not out of time. I have time. No, I'm out of time. I will close it up. Thank you all very much.